Today on Adversity to Strength with Lee Freeman, I have Jess Impiazzi, who rose to fame on shows like X on the Beach and Celebrity Big Brother. But behind the spotlight was a story of loss, trauma, and resilience. In this raw and powerful conversation, Jess opens up about caring for her blind mother from a young age, navigating the pressure of fame, losing loved ones, and the silent battles with her own mental health. She shares how therapy, self-reflection, and writing her memoir, Silver Linings, helped her reclaim her voice and rebuild her life. This is a story about growing through grief, finding purpose after chaos, and discovering strength in vulnerability. If you've ever felt stuck, unseen, or overwhelmed by life's challenges, Jess's journey will remind you that healing is possible and you're never alone as what you think you are. Jess, thanks ever so much for taking the time out and coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Lee. I think it's all like a good thing to talk about and have everyone kind of get involved, because we've all had some sort of adversity at some point in our lives.
We certainly have. Take us back to the beginning for yourself there, Jess, with your journey. Where did it all start for you?
So there's so many parts, as you look back in life, it's like so many chapters, aren't there? I kind of was born up in Wimbledon. We lived with my nan and granddad. Mum and dad split up when I was young. We'd moved all over the place. And then, I suppose where things I found what I wanted to do was when I went to Italia Conti, a theatre school, to train to be an actress. And I lived with my nan and granddad. And that's all I ever wanted to do. So I had a scholarship to one of the best theatre schools in England. I suppose when things started to get a bit difficult for me was previous to that scholarship. There was a lot of domestic violence in my home, not from my dad, but I won't go into that, but there was a lot of domestic violence in my home. And I guess that put me in a very fight or flight mode from quite a young age, which I think is, adverse childhood experiences often can give you a different outlook on life a lot of the time. And as I get older now, I understand how much of an impact that's had on me. My real dad now, he's passed away a couple of years back, but he was quite dependent on alcohol. My mum liked to go out quite a lot when I was younger, and then the other person in the household was quite violent. So I think from growing up around that, I knew what I wanted to do, and that was I wanted to be in film and television. So I knew that was my escape. But what I didn't take into account was that because of all these childhood experiences, that was going to factor in at some point. And there's no playbook on life. We don't really know, especially when you're growing up through that. When I ended up at theatre school, I was 17 and my nephew died of meningitis and septicemia when he just turned 1. And I was helping to look after him that day. So I had to witness all of that. And loss at such a young age. And then 6 months, I was like, my mum went completely blind. Yeah. And then my real dad, I had to see, every other weekend, was getting quite bad on alcohol. So all these things were kind of happening at the same time, whilst I'm trying to get a BA honours in the performing arts after the school. And I just kind of went at 17, 18, after all of that happened, something clicked in me. And I was severely depressed. I was suicidal. I tried to take my life at that age. I couldn't see. I used to remember explaining it to people like it was a million things in the air and I didn't know which one to grab.
Yeah.
And so I would just zone out and I was completely and utterly depressed. And I didn't know where things got better because from such a young age to like 18, all I'd seen was a lot of pain, fear. I mean, there was good bits in there, like my scholarship or doing things like that, of course. But when it's getting overridden by utter fear as a child, it's very difficult to kind of realize that things get better, because I'd seen bad things and things got better, but then a load more bad things happened. Yeah. And I think, I look a lot into the human brain now and how our hormones work in our body and all that kind of stuff. And I know that our prefrontal cortex isn't quite developed at that age anyway. So you can't, when you're in immediate pain, you don't see how things can get better. Yeah. And I think that really struck me when I learned that, because I was like, well, that's why I was suicidal at such a young age, because I couldn't see how this gets better anymore. I ended up dropping out of my scholarship, and I ended up looking after mum for a while, doing Braille classes and whatever we could. But then she's severely depressed because she lost her eyesight. I mean, that's a big thing to lose. And also trying to deal with the fact that just that past year I'd lost my nephew to meningitis. It was navigating something no child or teenager really should be navigating, but I was. And, I could go off on so many tangents here because I listen to so many people talking about these things. But when it comes to like the brain itself, you don't understand how much, like people that have had this kind of upbringing often will seek out relationships that are a bit damaging or represent someone within that early formative years that actually are harming you. So I didn't realize I was only attracted to people for a long time that were either substance abusers to represent, my dad or the other person in the house, people that would maybe cheat or something like that, someone that caused high drama, who was quite toxic. But then I had to realize that that's me seeking that out. So I'm just as toxic to try and learn and unpick what I'm doing here because it's what was familiar, not what was good for me. And I did that. That was up until quite recently. That was in my 30s where I stopped doing that. When I took on, you learn your patterns. And I think you've got to be so emotionally evolved to look at yourself and get rid of all ego to be able to look into yourself to be able to unpick that. And that can be a really hard thing to do. But I think as I've got older, I've realized the importance of relationships, and they don't just have to be romantic relationships, but the relationships you have with yourself and with anyone that's in your close circle, because that's how you rebuild a safety net when you've had adverse childhood experiences. It kind of teaches you that everything can be safe, but you just have to have that reassurance. And if you're actively seeking out the kind of relationships you grew up with, that's never going to change.
Yeah, definitely. When did you realize this, or was this your first time in therapy that you, because that's with what you're telling me, that's somebody that's done a lot of work on themselves. It's not something you could just figure out on your own. So how did you get to where you are now with everything that you've been learning, tools, that strategies, and recognizing the patterns that you'd been following in the past?
So it was probably when I was at 29. I'm 36 now, for context. At 29, I was getting divorced. My ex-husband had cheated, so I left, and my immediate thing was all drama. Everything else goes on the waistline. I packed up my stuff, moved to LA, gave all my stuff to charity, moved to LA for 6 months, met someone over there. It was just my immediate is to run. And that's what I did. And whilst I was going through that whole process, I was like, there's something I'd started meditating just maybe 6 months before I got cheated on and was about to go through the divorce. And I don't know, it was just something I didn't like inside. There was something I could feel that wasn't right. And I thought, I'd heard about meditating, thought I'll give that a try. And so I started to do that. And it's actually when I was in Big Brother, I was doing a bit of that, but they would tell you off because they think you were sleeping. So they'd stop you from doing it. I was like, guys, I need this. But I kind of think that was my catalyst, and whether it was a divine intervention, I don't know, but something came on my lap to do with meditating and some of these like self-help books that I just started getting into it before it all kicked off. So when it did all kick off and I left and all of that, I had this kind of, okay, let's go further into this. So I was reading a lot of books about love, about psychology, about, patterns, there's a great book about attachment. It's called Attachment Theories, and it's about how we attach to people. And I knew, I was like, the way I do this isn't necessarily healthy. Like, I give my everything to someone and I fall into this really, really quickly, and I don't get to know them first. And I do also think I haven't had a diagnosis of this. I think I've had some genetic testing done, and they said I do carry a gene that is associated with that, and so I could go and get tested if I wanted to, but slightly on the autistic spectrum. And when I look back through my life, when I got told that on my genetic testing, I was like, that would make a lot of sense. As a child, I would hide behind sofas to read, and I don't like too much noise if I'm out somewhere. Right. So then going into my 20s, I was masking a lot. So I'd become like the friendship group I was in, and I could never stay with them for too long. I prefer one-on-one conversations. I prefer one-on-one interactions. I don't like big groups. I get nervous. For someone that has to go to a lot of do's and stuff for work, I'm in a state of panic for hours before I've even got to go there. Like the logistics will panic me. How I look will panic me because I don't know if it's going to fit in with how everyone else looks. And there's a lot of things that I do that I understand that could very much be autistic. Mum said as a child I wouldn't wear shoes ever. Even going outside, it was like a constant battle. To this day, I don't like wearing long sleeves, so the winter's a nightmare for me. So I'll wear them as long as I can bend my arms. And it's all these things that may have done, associate with autism. And I get very into certain things, but things that don't spark that interest, I can't focus on whatsoever. So I do think, if I got tested, I'd probably find out something is a bit deeper. I think with the question was, how did I figure it out? It was in the depths of despair that these things came along. And as I say, it started with meditation and reading a lot of books and understanding the brain a bit more. The more I understood, the more I could relate to things. And then I just stopped being so hard on myself. I would catch myself in patterns and I'd be like, right, you're doing that again. So let's stop doing that. And, I went very isolated for a while because I was so anxious all the time of having to be in a certain way around certain people or live up to what people expected because of what they saw on the TV or, it was always like I was never myself and I couldn't understand why I was unhappy. And it's because, well, I'm so far away from what I am that after that divorce and after coming back from LA and moving back home and trying to building myself back up again, that's when I kind of went back to what I remembered, what I loved as a child, which was reading and just doing these things that could help myself. It gave me that ability to be able to check, hang on, is this a pattern or is this? And like I said, that attachment book, the attachment theory book was really, really good for me because I thought, well, number one, if I could figure out which attachment I had. My attachment style was anxious attachment. So I'm very anxious that people are going to leave me or going to hurt me or I so I can understand that for starters. And then I looked into the autism kind of thing, and that can be very obsessive with people and that kind of thing. So I was like, okay, right, there's things here that I'm learning about myself because of this. And I don't need to, and I think the more you learn and understand about it, the easier it is to actually break the pattern in the first place. Because the minute you realize there's a problem, you can do something for a solution.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I am now. And in finding those patterns, I had a really awful breakup about 2 years ago, maybe just over. The stress from that it made me ill. And I think on top of the childhood, with everything else that had gone on, I was diagnosed with lupus and autoimmune disease. And I think I'd predisposed myself to all this just from years and years of fight or flight and competing the same patterns with the same type of people. So when I met my partner now, it didn't feel normal for me because he's so kind, so caring, so empathetic, so understanding. It took a while for me to learn that is normal. There's not going to be something out the woodwork that's going to hurt you. That's fine. And actually, by nurturing myself to understand that, I was then able to nurture a relationship with someone that was correct and able to do that with me in a safe space. So it takes a lot of work. I don't think I'll ever fully know everything about myself. We're always adapting because new scenarios will show up in our lives that we've never dealt with before. And it's how we deal with that and we learn. But I just kind of try and keep a mind that's open now rather than just box myself into something. I'm like, well, how does this feel today? Don't try and be something. How does it feel? And you go with the feelings and don't suppress things because you're worried what people will think. If you're suppressing, it leads to other things. And I'm sure that's why I ended up with lupus because I suppressed a lot of these painful things and it comes out of your body in different ways. I'm not afraid to ask for help anymore when I need it. I used to always have to be the one to fix everything. And now it's like, actually, I need some help here. And learning that that's safe to do so. So it's just about relearning and not just necessarily about other people, but mainly about yourself.
Yeah. I mean, what you're saying there is pretty much what I teach my clients. They don't know the answers. Pretty much all of them want to find the answers to why they feel and act in the way that they do. And teaching them new strategies and techniques. So the fact that you've done that, it makes such a difference to your life there as well. But you've always seemed to have a positive outlook on life as well. Do you think that's just you, your personality, that genetic you've got, or do you think that's something you've had to work on over time?
It's definitely something I've had to work on over time. Like I was always hyperactive. I think again that's probably around people. I'd be big Jess and happy Jess and flamboyant everywhere and making people laugh all the time. So I gave that impression, I think, a lot that I was always happy and always put a positive spin on everything. But sometimes at home, I was severely depressed. I was on antidepressants until I was 22 years old, but people wouldn't have ever known that. As I got older, I think around the time I was just explaining about the divorce time was when I was down again. But then I thought, okay, let's really look at positive things here. And I actively sought after, if there was 10 bad things in the day, but one had gone well, I would write that down that night on a book. And I think keeping a gratitude journal is really important for me because then you go to, we sometimes if you can't sleep, you're playing things that have gone wrong that day or things you're worried about in the future or in the past. You're not there in that very moment. And I think when I do the gratitude journals at night, I've started doing it again the last couple of weeks. We've had a bit of stress, and actually I've been sleeping a lot better again. And I'm like, okay, I should never stop that. I need to do this all the time. Because instead of me going to sleep thinking, oh, I need to get this form done today, or this needs to be done, or, work's not great at the minute, or, all these things, I'm thinking, okay, the last thing I'm doing is writing in a book of the things that have made me happy that day, or the things that I am grateful for. And that's my last thoughts. Then I go get into sleep, and I'm not winding myself up almost. Because that's the thing. We've got this monkey mind where we just
Yeah.
split from one thought to the other, and we've got no ability to stop that. And I was the worst for it. I do it sometimes still when I have to go, hang on a minute, you need to meditate, calm your thoughts. Because most of the time, the problems in our head are made 10 times worse by just thinking about them. Things we do have to think about. Yes, we have to organize things. We have to make sure things are done. Sometimes we have time frames. We have all of that. Of course, you have to do that. But when we catastrophize things, often the problem is more in your head than it is actually in the real world. Like when I was going through that last breakup a couple of years, actually the one I just had 2.5 years ago,
Yeah.
I had so many problems. I was going through a health crisis. I wasn't able to work. I was so poorly. My hair was falling out in buckets. I'd lost like 60% of my hair, which thankfully is growing back now. I was having fertility treatment because I got told I had premature ovarian insufficiency. So the chances of me conceiving naturally were very, very slim. I just had a breakup. I had to then make sure I paid my mortgage. I had to make sure I had all the bills coming in, but I was too ill to work. So at that point, I was like, I spiraled big time because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. But then I thought I had to really talk to myself and actually look, I've got through that. Forget all the hard things growing up. This was a real intense bit because now I'm on my own with an illness and I can't work because I'm so ill. What on earth am I to do now? Like that was, I'm like, seriously, could I go bankrupt here? Could I, am I in a lot of trouble now? But you get through it and then you get out the other end and you're like, why did I stress myself out so much in that point? Of course it's stressful. Financials are one of the highest stress levels for anyone.
As always.
But yeah, always. But there's always a way. And like, I think I got myself into the headspace of if I lose everything and I start again. And you're not dead. The doctors are working with you to get your medication right so you're not in constant pain. This will end. And so will this financial strain because you get back to work again. So you phone up. I made the calls to banks to say, look, this is the situation. I'm ill. They help you. They don't just go, oh, we need it right now. They'll give you a mortgage holiday until your medication starts working. There's things that can be done. And I think I got myself so stressed in that time that I look back now and I'm like, I'm still here and I'm still okay. And in fact, things are a lot better now.
Yeah.
It always does come out. And that's why I think it's so sad when you hear people that have taken their lives over financial things because things do get better. And you know what? Everyone can rebuild. Everyone can rebuild. And I never saw that in the past. And I've seen it now again because of a recent, and with that all going on, I've rebuilt my health. I'll have ongoing health issues for the rest of my life because of lupus, of being an autoimmune disease and on constant medications and trips to the hospital. My health hasn't been great the last 2 weeks, but I know that it will pass. And I think when I keep that mindset of this too shall pass, so I never get too excited on the good news. And I never get too down on the bad news. I try and I'm very proud of myself in the good news, but I never let it go too far. So I go into hyperspace of excitement. I'm really proud of myself there. And, take yourself out for a nice dinner with your boyfriend, do something lovely. And therefore it helps me keep a balance. And I think in life, that's all we're searching for, isn't it? Some sort of balance.
Yeah. And that's often the hardest part because when you've got extreme highs and lows, or even if you're just going through life and you've had a lot of adversity, it can often be the hardest thing to have that level of consistency. It can be very manic. The world's coming to an end, or it could be great. Oh, it's going to be a disaster. So for you, bearing in mind, you've got so many reasons to go, oh, look at me, look what I've been through. And you've done the opposite. And despite everything, you've got a real level of consistency and consistent thought process there, which gives you a lot of stability. That's a lot of work gone in there. That's not easy. That's really impressive the way you've gone about that.
Thank you. And I think, do you know what someone said to me once? No, actually, it wasn't someone that said it to me. It was on YouTube. Will Smith did a piece about fault versus responsibility. And that was just when I got to LA. I listened to it on a treadmill and I thought, holy moly. And I was like, I could sit and blame, and I did for a long time in my younger years, blame everything that had gone on as a child. And I could be resentful to people that had brought me up or not been there or had been, I could have had all of that. And then I was like, but if I sit like that, I'm just going to get worse and worse. And I'll think about that and it just declines more and more and more. And who's being helped by that, because I'm certainly not feeling good by it. No one
No.
else is feeling good by it, and it's my problem. It's not my fault that these things may have happened as a child. It's not my fault that my dad died of cancer. It's not my fault that he turned to alcohol. It's not my fault that one of the people living in my home when I was a child was abusive. It's not my fault of any of this stuff. It's not my fault my nephew died, and it's not my fault my mum went blind. But it is my responsibility to make sure I have a good life now. It's my responsibility and the people that I choose to be around. And it also, I don't want my children in the future to go through that. So I've got to heal something in me, because then that would be my fault on them then. And then it's also my responsibility. If I want to bring something into the world, I'm going to have to do that from a place of like just nice, a nice place. I've got to be able to be so calm in myself and balanced and understanding of emotion that I don't put what I grew up with onto something else that I produce,
Yeah. And that's easy for a lot of people. Again, as a therapist, I've seen so many experiences that where people's carried the problems of their childhood with them. They've then copied them as well. They've not known how to deal with it. They've not I mean, you've obviously invested a lot of time into yourself, whether it's therapy, reading books, journal. There's so much that you've done. You can see that clearly. A lot of people haven't done it. They've just kind of gone on with it, and they just repeat the process, and they project their own issues onto their kids, and then the cycle continues there as well. So I think when you've got somebody that recognizes the things that you need to deal with and then deal with it, that's going to be a completely different upbringing when you have your kids in the future.
Yeah, and I also kind of get to the idea a lot of the time that nothing in my life that has been really awful hasn't come out with a better reasoning at the other end of it. So
Yeah.
when I'm in the midst of chaos, when I look where I am now, I'm happy. I've got an amazing man in my life. But my lupus has led me to create a business called myada.app, which is the autoimmune disease assistant. I've got people from all over the world that look at the root cause rather than just medication to help people get into remission, like I did. And we're about to launch. I've worked tirelessly on this for a year and a half, and with the most amazing people in the world that know how to. We've become so detached from our bodies that we almost like we forget our natural instincts. We rely on a phone, a device, a watch to tell us how we're feeling instead of really taking note of it ourselves. We don't go outside. We don't get the nature. We need all of that, and we've somehow got ourselves in this space where we believe that not to be true anymore. And I know for a fact, and I don't know if you feel the same, is that if I'm on my phone, I don't go on it first thing in the morning. But if I slip up, and I do, I feel depressed that day, and I'll feel down, and I get stuck in a sphere of my phone, and I can't get off. And a lot of people are doing that now, and we need to be able to get out and feel the breeze, breathe in the fresh air, be of the trees, be of nature, just understand that that's everything we live in is a construct, isn't it? Like, money, jobs, careers, no one else has that. It's just humans. This is animals don't have to. They just naturally do their own jobs to live. We've got all this extra pressure where we've made this construct of life, and it probably is needed because others all being Nathaniels now running around shooting each other or whatever. But we have to also remember what our bodies need, and it's not devices, phones, it's connection. Nature. It's nature's connection, legitimate human connections. And I think we pull away from that so much, and I think that causes us a lot of problems as well. Things when I was really down, I started to find things that would really help my mood in that moment. So I would go for a walk in the woods, and when I got back, I'd feel a bit more lifted. And every time I felt that kind of bad moods and depression can sometimes become habits, I feel. And that's how I felt. It became a habit of feeling bad. So I'd wake up with anxiety. Why have I just woken up? Why have I got this dread? Okay, first thing you're going to do is go, before I got sick, it was go for a 5K run, do that. And okay, I've lifted. And then I rebuilt habits that were positive rather than just feeding the negative habits, which was waking up having anxiety, going on my phone, looking at other people's brilliant lives on Instagram. And then I'd have to try and take a picture to make it look good like that, or go and get drunk because that makes you feel a bit better for that moment in time. These habits are so easy to stick to, but I wanted to build habits that were positive, and actually it becomes a lifestyle. You forget about all the bad ones by the time you've built enough positive habits, and that takes a massive helpful boost on your mental health as well. So things we can actively do. And as much as it's painful sometimes, when you're having that bad day and I'm sat there and I've gone on my phone, I'll think to myself, I can sit here and stay in this, but the thought of going for a walk, I just can't be bothered, or a run, I just don't want to do it. But when I do it, I know I feel better. So it's either the pain of staying like that forever, or the momentary pain of getting yourself up to go and do that, because that goes then. And the more you do that, the more the bad pain goes. So it's choosing what you want to suffer with. Do you want to suffer momentarily to have a better life longevity wise, or do you want to just stay like this forever? Because that's how it will be forever unless you change something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like if I'm not training at the gym where I've been like overworked or whatever, I feel it. I feel that I've not trained. And if you get into that routine, for me, because somebody that knows what it's like to really, really train and then to then not train, the difference is just
massive.
No comparison there as well. So where I'm so busy at the moment with everything, I'm like, I need to get back to my regular training there as well, because I feel it. I feel it as well.
Yeah, that was always my thing, training. And I would run 5K every morning before 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd have done that 5K because it made me feel so good. And that really helped the positive. So obviously when I got sick with lupus, I couldn't do that anymore. I had to find other things. And, lupus, again, you've got to be careful you don't exert yourself. But at the same time, you still got to keep moving. But sometimes your pain in your joints and your wrists and everything is so bad. But I was like, okay, I just need to find new ways of that now. And those kind of things were, okay, phone's away. I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk, if just that, and I'll go and get in the bath and read. That's my comfort time. It's just about finding adaptations of what you can and can't do. Mine's a bit different with autoimmune. It changes the dynamic of how I can do that. But to get me out of the slump in the first place was always training, moving my body, because that's what we need to do. We should be doing that. It's just society's given us Deliveroo, takeaways, heating, everything's so easy. We've got no purpose anymore. We need to find our purpose, and we need to move our bodies. We're designed for that, and we need to make sure what we eat. That's another thing. That's what I've really put into my app for the autoimmune community, because there's actual science evidence. We have the vagus nerve goes in through the stomach into the brain, so there's the gut mind connection. It's a real thing. And if you're eating processed food after processed food after processed food, it's actually giving people depression.
Yeah, and often cancer.
Yeah, and cancers and autoimmune diseases and all of these things. But we've got to start learning to take responsibility for ourselves again. And I think we've been in a culture where we don't have to, because there's a problem, we'll go to the doctors and they'll just tell us this, or people just don't take responsibility for themselves like they should anymore, because it's too easy to put someone else to do something.
Yeah, I agree. Almost in every area of life we live in, it's somebody else's fault. People don't want to take accountability or responsibility. I know for myself, I've had to work hard to take accountability for the things. Actually, do you know what? This was my fault. This was my fault.
Yeah.
Let's not look for somebody else to blame. The chance there's a good chance it's me there as well. Looking after yourself is everything. The food that we eat, the exercise, the people that we surround ourselves in there as well. And it looks like you work really hard to surround yourself with great people. Your diet's good. You're dealing with lupus. Your mental health seems to be as good as it possibly can be with everything that you're doing.
Yeah, again, it's touch on what you just said about the accountability that people don't take. Once you start to do that, it's like you drop your ego. Your ego's out the window at that point, because you're like, hang on, I was wrong there. And I have no qualm in saying to people now, I was wrong there. I didn't know how to deal with that. We go to, anger or something so quickly in a defense. But when you learn to, like me and my partner, I've never had a full-blown argument ever. It's the first relationship I've been in where there's never been an argument. And it's because we can both sit down. Number one, we taught each other to feel safe around each other. So there's no dramatic things. I learned to be safe around him because he showed me that I could be, and vice versa. So if there's anything playing on our mind, I could say, I'm feeling this type of way, and I don't know whether it's because of something you've done or something triggering me from my past. And we'll break it down. And by the end of it, we're in cuddles and everything's fine, because it's about emotional maturity, but also responsibility of where this is coming from. So I analyze everything so deeply sometimes in my brain, but actually that's really helped me get out of a stage where I couldn't do that because I couldn't understand it. The more I analyze, the more I understand, the more scenarios I go into, the easier things become.
Yeah. And analysing is different to overthinking.
Exactly. Because overthinking is very, very, I can be on the border of that sometimes, but so then, I would do that and overthink, and then that's when a problem would happen. But because I've found a safe relationship, I can say, can you help me depict this? I don't know if I'm overthinking or if I'm analyzing. And that there, it stops the overthinking straight away. It was learning to stand up for myself, or learning to be safe in speaking. Because I think when you've grown up with what I did, you kind of can lose a lot of safety in speaking up, or you try and keep the peace everywhere. Whereas now I'm like, no, this is a feeling in me. I need to, brainstorm this with someone. I don't need to take this all by myself all the time. And that's why I think therapy is so good, because say you have a client now who's, hasn't got a safe relationship, and they don't know if they have or they haven't. So they're easily susceptible to gaslighting, to be able to soundboard what you're feeling. You can get validation, but you can also get understanding from soundboarding that. And then you're like, oh, okay, so I don't need to do that again. I don't need to overthink that, because I'm not, I've got someone here who can be trusted, that I can talk this through with, and they'll be honest with me if I'm overthinking, and what I can do to help myself with overthinking, or if I'm just having a little bit of an analysis of myself, and like, okay, this is how my feelings stand on this. I'll speak them up. So yeah, I think therapy is a great way of kind of depicting which is which.
When did you first go to therapy, and what pushed you to make the decision to start having therapy?
When I was 17, I first went, because that's when my nephew had died. It didn't really do much for me at the time, because it wasn't, it's a long time ago now. And it wasn't done in a way that we would have therapy now. I think it was more like the lady just asked me about my dreams. So I used to dream horrific dreams of being murdered, but it's because it was what I was seeing growing up in the household. So my dreams were always absolutely ghastly, like woke me up like couldn't breathe. I'd always get killed, and just before I died, I'd wake up. It was like that kind of dreams, like always happening. So I just kind of talk through them and just cry, and I didn't really get to the bottom of anything. So I suppose more so, I kind of dipped in and out of it really, but I recently went through a program, the Grey Cotswold, which was like a well-being kind of retreat, who've come on board with me with my app to help people with autoimmune. I did more of this kind of therapy where we talk, and it's almost like, what's quite nice is that the stuff I've read in the books, I was able to speak this out with therapists, and that I found really beneficial. And I think as you get older as well, things start to make more sense, and it's easier to understand yourself. But then you don't want to leave it till you're in your mid to late 30s either, because that way your brain starts to get a little less elasticy to learn new things. So we'll always be evolving and changing and learning, but it's just how we go about it and what tools we get ourselves.
Yeah, and the more tools you got, you're always learning, and it makes life easier. One question for you, obviously being in like public eye, how do you work on yourself as the person you are, your own personality, compared to maybe in the past where you were thinking that you're going to have to be this type of person because people are wanting or assuming you to be that person? How have you changed that?
So that my whole public eye life was me listening to agents that probably didn't have your best interest, telling you to behave a certain way. So the only way I could do that would be to get drunk, because I was too, again, like I said, it maybe on the spectrum. I didn't know how to do that, and I'd be terrified if I wasn't, and I had to be myself. So I just get drunk and go out. Then I'm around all these kind of wild reality people, so I'm just copying and behaving exactly like that, and that was fine because it got me through that period. But it's not fine for long term.
No,
that's never going to be fine for anyone long term. I learned something in therapy actually. My what I did, how I behaved in certain times, as it was a survival mechanism. It got me through that, but it's not going to get you through the next part of your life, because and that's why I can forgive myself for a lot of things in the past. I'm like, you had to survive, and you did. Now you're on to your next chapter where you're not in survival. Now you can relax. And I think to find me again, I stopped being scared of what people thought. I had to really teach myself to stop worrying what people thought of me. I would get home and have a conversation with someone. I'd get home and I'd sit in the shower for like half an hour, panicking and assessing every word that I'd ever said, because have I upset anyone? Have I done this? Have I done that? And it would be awful. So I'd just isolate, and then you're more depressed, and it was just a vicious circle of that. Whereas now I think I respect myself a lot more, to the point where I know I deserve good people around me. So because I'm more, I check into more of the people around me. I know they're good people. I won't just be friends with people instantly and they're the best thing ever, and then I'll just run off with them, and then that's great. I don't just do that anymore because I know, I deserve good people around me. So I'm going to seek good people around me who understand me for me and love me for me. That's first bit of self-respect for myself. And then the people that love me, I can be myself in front of, and that's when I'm at my calmest and happiest. And it could be that I've got a burnout that day. I just need to be quiet. And I know the person next to me is going to make me feel okay in that. He's not going to be annoyed at me. He's not going to think there's anything wrong. Or if I'm really hyper that day and excited, they just join in because they feel the buzz around me. And I don't do things that I don't want to do anymore. I think about things first. And again, like I said, being on the spectrum, I think it was very easy for me to just go, okay, I'll do that. Okay, I'll do that. Now I go, okay, is this what you want? Is this going to make you feel good? Like, I don't touch alcohol anymore since my lupus diagnosis, but in my 20s, I did drink a lot. And I think that was all just to mask how I was actually feeling. Because when I don't like nightclubs, so I don't know why I was in them all the time. So I'd drink because then I'd enjoy it. I don't like massive crowds. I don't like the whole public eye thing's wild because I'm like, as much as I'm safe and happy and really bubbly and chatty around one-on-one people, big crowds, I'm terrified. So I overdo it and I be excited and happy and making everyone laugh. But inside, I'm terrified. So I don't put myself in those situations. I don't need to. Why was I doing that? I'm a big empath, so I feel like I always pick up on people. So if someone's not very friendly, that will affect me greatly, and I don't know how to. So I just, if I need to do something for work, I'm doing it for me now. If I need to be in a big, like we went to the National Film Awards the other night, normally that would scare me, but we're there for my friend who was winning a award for a documentary, and we're supporting, and I'm safe in my group. I don't need to put on a show for everyone. It's for me now. And I think that really helps settle me into being back to my kind of authentic self.
Yeah, it sounds like you put a lot of strong boundaries in place along the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you work on those boundaries? Because it's so important. Obviously, there's a lot of things you've had boundaries from day one, but the everyday ones, the ones that are easy to let slide, it looks like you've worked on those. So there's no grey area. They're very black and white now.
Yeah, that was, again, I think that was just for a lot of reading, because I was like, I would always do everything for everyone else, like I said, and try and fix everything. I had to put the boundaries on myself as well to stop me from doing that. So I'd be like, I could feel myself going into helping mode. And I'm like, hang on, are you well today? Can you do this? And I'd ask myself a few questions. And then I'd be like, okay, you can't. You can say, I can't do that right now for you, but let me see what next week look like. Or if, for instance, you're invited to something and someone wants you there, but it's no benefit to me, but they just want you there because it might get in the papers. I used to be like, oh, sure, because I felt like it was my duty to do that. And now I'm like, hang on, it's costing me to go to this. What am I doing? Yeah. But I'm sorry, I won't be able to make that one, but thank you so much for inviting me. Whereas I'd never have done that before. I felt guilty. I felt guilty for doing something that was detrimenting me. I'm like, what is going on? And it was just the realization of that. And then just learning to say no. And I think that's with anything, relationships, work, bosses, whatever it might be, friendships, learning to say no, that doesn't serve me anymore. And you can find that out by seeing how you feel. Like if you feel off about something, listen to that, because that is your body telling you something doesn't feel right.
Yeah. And I have to explain it to clients all the time. It's okay to say no. You're not being a horrible person or bad, but you're actually often protecting yourself.
Yeah.
Why don't you say yes to that? Are you just people pleasing, or you just want a quiet life, or you feel guilty? But it is essential to say no, because if you say no, you've got your boundaries in place, and it's going to make your life a lot easier. And you can end up in situations you might not want to be in. Yeah. Have you found that you've passed your experience and advice on to like friends of yours that might not be where you are with everything, and that's helped them out to learn?
Well, my mum actually, because she was always quite reactive in things and relationships, and in that way she was a kind of, I could not explain it other than like raw, like she'd lose it. I got her meditating and kind of getting into a place where she could be a bit more calmer and listen to her thoughts. And she now we've got great boundaries with each other. And Mum would always want to be on the phone all the time, 4 or 5 times a day sometimes. And I'm like, Mum, I'm trying to work. I'm trying to build this company. Just because I'm not physically at an office today, I am doing something. And she used to get really cross with me. And it was not that long ago, actually, about a year and a half ago. I said, Mum, look, if you want me to succeed, you've got to stop doing this, because I need to have that time. And if I didn't answer the phone, they'd be like, well, I was so worried and have a go at me. And I'm like, Mum, I'm 36. Oh, I'm 33, 34 years old. Yeah. You need to stop doing this now, because then I feel guilty and then we'll have an argument. And I don't want to have an argument. So we need to figure out how we can best fix this. And now our relationship is so easy because she's blind. She'll send me a voice note and I'll get back when I can. She doesn't bombard me because she was bored. She was trying to take it onto me, and then it became my problem. So now I'm like, and in fact, by me putting that boundary, and she now has more of her own things and things that she's doing. So it works in so many ways. When you just start enforcing boundaries, it's not a fallout thing. Actually, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, it will make relationships better.
It will do, and also it gets rid of people that you don't want in your life, because your good friends, like you were saying about the people you've got in your life now, your environment is everything. You're a product of your environment. So if you've got good people around you, great. Most people won't know what your boundaries are. Your good friends won't know what your boundaries are because they're never going to test them. And it's the ones that you probably don't want in your life that are going to test the boundary. And they've got the two options. They either respect your boundaries and conform, fair enough, or they leave. And it's amazing how often the people that test your boundaries suddenly disappear from your life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I noticed that big time.
Yeah, definitely. But even when it's like your mum, who you think the world of, you still have to have those boundaries in place. And like you said, it is for her benefit as well, because if you didn't have that boundary, she's there always waiting for you to pick up the phone, stop what you're doing, and she's not focusing on what else she could be doing. Now she sounds like she's doing so many other things with herself.
Exactly. It's, when you've got the right people and love is there and everything is nice, crossing boundaries will make a relationship better.
Yeah, without doubt. I think it's essential there as well. What's next for yourself there? Because it just seems like you're doing so many different things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still acting. I'm not as in that world as I was. Not out of choice. It's just how the industry is, and I spent so much time chasing it that I just wanted to pull back. I was like, it's not healthy. I'm 36. I want to have a family. Everything's been put on pause for this dream of being on the TV doing these films. And I got strike on the BBC, and I hadn't done a big job since then. I'd done a couple of indie films, and I'm like, that doesn't need to be what defines me anymore. So what's defining me? My lupus came along, and I built Ada from that to help other people, and that meant so much to me that I'm able to do that. So I was like, okay, this is a purpose. And it's not, the acting, I always thought that was just my personality, but it wasn't. It was what I felt I needed for validation almost.
Yeah.
And I don't need the validation. I love acting. I love going off and filming. But if I just focus all of that and my purpose is only on filming, when I'm not working on acting jobs 80 to 90% of the time, I'm going to be depressed because I'm not fulfilling my purpose. So I wanted to separate my goals and my purpose. I always had them kind of as a thing together, where I've learned to separate goals and purpose, and be like, okay, my purpose is that I have this chronic illness and I know how to get it into remission. I know how to look after the body, and a lot of people don't have this information. So let's build the knowledge hub so people can come to this and see it all in one place. The work I've been doing for the last 2 years, all in one place, so that we got it all in one with all the right practitioners that are going to help you get there and live the best you can with your autoimmune disease, and if not, get into remission. That's a purpose, because that's also something I'm living with every day. So I understand that and I can help people. Whereas my goals were, I wanted to be on TV. Well, I've achieved that. I got a BBC job. I've been on Celebrity Big Brother. I've done these things. They're always going to be there. They don't go away. They're still mine. I still did that. And if another one comes up, fabulous. What a bonus that month will be, or what a bonus that will be, getting to be with all these amazing actors again. But I'm not going to just live my purpose for that, because then I'm going to be depressed all the time. So I decided to separate that.
Yeah, because your life just seems so full of fulfillment and achievement with the things that you do. I mean, I see the picture last week, and you just seem so happy with the puppies, the guide dogs.
Oh, yeah, the guide dogs, yeah.
And you could just tell that you generally were so happy there. You put your heart into it. You're so fulfilled there as well. You're not going to get that from probably an acting job, no matter what it is, because it's a completely different thing there as well. And I think you are right, especially if you're an actor. How many actors are working back to back on a project?
1% of them. So it's like
1%, and the rest of the time, what do? You know yourself, if you're not working, it's one of the quickest ways to get depressed. So with my clients, if they're off work or whatever, I'm like, right, get busy, get out, go for it, do this, do that. Do not sit there. Even if life's good, you'll get depressed there as well. So I think you've gone from potentially being so depressed because you're not working and you're waiting for the next thing, to doing something that's so fulfilling. And you can just tell that you're getting so much from it. And it's going to benefit a lot of people and yourself there as well.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think when we do things for a higher purpose and not just for a validation or an ego, when we're actually giving something to humanity or the globe or the planet or just something you can give, that automatically will give you a purpose. So you're not seeking anymore, you're doing.
Yeah. With myself, I worked in sales, making good money there. And I remember reading a book called The Happiness Hypothesis, and it tells you how to be fulfilled and happy in life. And I was just reading about myself, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I decided to become a therapist because I genuinely wanted to do something that is going to help me learn about myself, but also help other people. Other people can benefit it. So as a